Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Aside from the occasional data center conversation, it has been more than 2 years since we last talked about artificial intelligence on Leading Edge. And it's an understatement to say a lot has changed in that time. Joining me for this third segment is Dr. Matthew Lindia. He's assistant professor at the University of Toledo. He's teaching a new course this semester called AI Communication and Connection. He also writes about the philosophy and ethics of these tools. Great to have you with us. Dr. Lindia, welcome to Toledo, just here since the summer.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate the time. Like I said, so much has changed in just 2 years' time. So yes. I guess talk a little bit about, in 2 years, I said to you in the green room, I said, a car changes so much, a phone changes so much. What have you noticed that's been the remarkable part of this over the last 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So the change in the past 2 years really has been exponential. And this is what you'll hear kind of all of the tech experts and the people at the tech companies saying, is that they've got this exponential growth. And they're absolutely correct about that. But what they mean by that really is that we've seen huge strides taken in what's basically these AI models' ability to solve complex problems. And the way that they do this is basically through what's called multi-step reasoning. And so basically the big difference from now and really the end of 2024 is that these models have the capability to take a prompt, and instead of just basically giving a plausible sounding answer right then and there, is they can take a moment and think about the prompt, split it up into segmented problems, and solve each of those problems independently before compiling an answer that addresses all of those things.
Let me ask you a question, and I want to get into your class a little bit and the curriculum there, but we went through a VHS beta type debate years and decades ago. One of those didn't last.
Right.
I'm curious, Grok, ChatGPT, all of the platforms that are out there, is there going to be one you think that is standalone?
The way the market is operating right now, it's hard to see a situation in which case there's a single AI model that's standalone. I think probably the better comparison than sort of VHS and beta would be to think about something like web browsers, where there are certainly some web browsers that are more popular than others, but there's not really one web browser where you're going to see a kind of monopoly of that technology. So it's certainly possible that we could see the gap increase between the kind of labs that are at the top of the field and are at the bottom, but we're actually seeing the opposite happen right now, where the kind of frontier is becoming thinner, the very top of the top, the models are becoming more similar.
Let's talk about the class a little bit. AI Communication and Connection. What are you trying to get through to these students this fall?
Absolutely. So this class is part of our department, the Department of Communication and Media, and the university's sort of more concerted effort to really kind of forefront AI as part of the education of our students. And we know that AI skills are one of the hottest commodities on the job market, and we know that they're one of the most important things for students to learn. And so there's kind of a two-pronged approach that we're taking for this course. On the one hand, we want to give students real-life experience using some of these AI tools. We want them to be familiar with how to train their own agent. We want them to be familiar with things like vibe coding, which is using natural language like you and I would use in conversation in order to build pieces of software that can then be implemented into websites and other programs, right? We want them to have these hard skills.
Let me ask you about the agent specifically. Sure. And does that agent become so familiarized with you that a reset is hard?
It depends. It all depends on the way that you're using
That's a loaded question, I guess.
And it is a loaded question. And let me circle back to it through the second part of the class that we're going to be kind of focusing on, which is giving students the skills to kind of think critically, to engage in ethical questions, political questions, societal questions about how AI is changing their workforce, their personal lives, and kind of their political environment. So the question is there a reset button for your kind of relationship with this agent? All depends on the way that you're using it.
Let me jump into the critical thinking part of this, because I promised we would talk about that. How do you let these kids understand it's okay to be uncertain? It's okay to work through problems, especially when you have AI as a forefront of this class?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, I love that you're asking this question, because this is the question that we have asked about technologies throughout the course of human history. That we can read, you can read Plato's dialogues where he asks about this concerning writing in ancient Greece. He says, will it destroy our memories? And the answer was, well, sort of. We can't remember epic poems the way that the Greeks could remember epic poems, but not many of us feel like that's a loss. And the answer is going to be the same for critical thinking and artificial intelligence. Does it have the capacity to destroy your critical thinking? Only if you let it. And the irony is that you're actually going to get the best results if you put in more critical thinking to your prompts ahead of time. And so we're talking not about losing critical thinking, but about changing its placement. Instead of using it to design from beginning to end whatever project you're working on, you're using it ahead of time to design your prompt more thoughtfully.
We're going to have to wrap it here. I apologize. I said we would hopefully get a prompt class. We're going to have to do that for the next time.
Absolutely.
Matt, it was a pleasure. Welcome to Toledo.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. We'll be back right after this.